Thank you everybody for joining another of the Barbados SEO Talks. And today we've got like someone really, really cool. We've got Purna Virji. She's got a fantastic book out. She's coming to Barbados and she's going to be talking about anything content. But first of all, thank you very much for joining us, Purna.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun.
And as I do with everybody else, I'm going to start with the same question. How did you get started in SEO?
So, like most people who got started in SEO a while ago, we all have really fun. I think we just landed here without even realizing that this was what we wanted to be. So I started off as a journalist. So I studied in Cardiff University. I got my master's in international journalism. I was so convinced when I was, very young that I was going to cover war and strife and be a very serious journalist. And then I quickly realized that that life is, I'm not meant for that life, and that life is not meant for me. And so I found my way into television production in the US. So I moved to the US and started working for our public TV station here, where I ended up producing a couple of different talk shows. And it was wonderful. But for anyone who's ever worked in journalism, you know that it pays nothing. It has also sometimes really long hours. And then my son was born with some health issues, and so I realized like I really needed to make a little change, and so I moved into traditional PR. And somehow working in traditional PR was a dark side of journalism, but I'm like, I'll do it. It's great. It pays way better. It has better hours. It is actually really fun, meet cool people, but it still didn't scratch the itch for me. Like I felt like something was missing. And then my best friend at the time was working in London for AOL. Like that's when AOL was really, really big at that time. So I'm really dating myself here, but a good 20 something years ago. And she was like, I'm doing this thing called SEO and AdWords. And somehow I managed to pitch my CEO of the agency that I was working at on like, let me try this magical little stuff. And if it works, can we sell it? And he said, yes, we can, and go get started. And that's my really long story where I just fell into it because of serendipity.
Your career sounds surprisingly very similar to mine.
I love that. Tell me about yours.
So I could relate to that because I studied journalism. I was a journalist, and then I worked for a TV station as a TV reporter and presenter. And then I also moved into PR because, as you said, the hours in journalism are very long. It doesn't pay very well, and progress is not always guaranteed. So I moved into PR. Got really bored at some point doing PR because I was not super excited about some of the clients I had. And then I moved into marketing, and more precisely content marketing and SEO.
Oh, I love it. Oh, we're such kindred spirits. So yeah, it's so relatable, right? I feel
Yeah.
like I found my calling. And the coolest thing about working in SEO and in digital marketing in general is the people.
Mm.
At that stage in the early like 2000s and mid 2000s, you learned from other people. There were
Yeah.
still no courses in college or anything. So I was grateful for people like Rand Fishkin or Martin McDonald who would go out there and share their learnings and share their teachings. And so it felt very much like a community where we shared, we came together, like there's no gatekeeping. People wanted to help others, and that's how we each lifted each other. And to me, it was the ethos of the people in the community that hasn't changed even now. I mean, sure, SEO, Twitter might have some drama here or there, but otherwise, this is a very welcoming, a very inclusive community.
That resonates with a lot of the things that most of the people that I've spoken to, they've said that one of the best things in the industry is this sense of collaborativeness and openness and willingness to share. And funnily enough, a lot of people also mentioned the drama, but I think there's drama in every industry, to be fair. But maybe we're familiar with this one because this is the one that we operate in.
You're right. It's exactly that, right? Because it's so rare. And for the most part, there's just so many good eggs in the industry that the one or two bad eggs just can just stand out because it's so different from the norm. So no, for the most part, I haven't done like proper SEO in years, but I stick with this community. I read all the threads. I want to be on it because I just want to be part of that community. They're such amazing, incredible people. And I mean, I love that content marketing is still such an important part of SEO, but yeah, the people ultimately, it's like everyone, you're considering a career, like come into digital marketing. They are the coolest people here.
I was going to ask, like, how how do you think content marketing has changed since you started until now? Has it changed much?
The funny thing is, it's just the attention that it gets is different, and the sort of role that it can play within a company is slightly different. But content has always existed, right? Even before the name content marketing was created, I believe by Joe Pulizzi and those and the folks at Content Marketing Institute when they created it. But everything has been content, right? And from advertising, copywriting, ultimately everything is content, and we've always used it to communicate with our audiences. More so now, people are taking it seriously as a way that they realize the power that just content has to build brands, right? It's not just there to game the algorithm. It's really there to engage with your audience, to be the differentiator as competition keeps coming up more and more in terms of business, but also in terms of creators competing for attention. I find that people are increasingly giving content the importance that it needs, and this year particularly is the perfect time with this advent of machine generated content now competing with human generated content.
Yeah, I was going to go into there. Like, how much do you think the content industry is going to be impacted by AI and like all these language models that can actually whip up texts or briefs or like bylines of text in like within like seconds?
Well, overall, I think it's a really positive thing. And like anything positive, right, it can be used for bad as well. But I always compare it to the dot-com bubble. If you remember when the internet first came out and websites and everybody was clamoring and everybody had a website, and then some things just didn't fulfill people's needs, or it just was there to grab a buck or whatever. And then it just exploded, right? We had the dot-com bubble burst. And now we have the internet today. So in my personal opinion, I feel like that's the stage that we are. Everybody has got AI, everybody's rushing, marketers are getting stressed, we're missing out. Everyone's like, oh, I made $1 million using these 2 AI tools, or so on. So it all depends on how you use these tools. Like, think about it strategically. What hasn't changed since the time that our ancestors were, cave people roaming the planet, right? Our nature as humans hasn't really changed that much. What's changed is how we communicate. And so if we use these AI tools to solve people's problems, to appeal to them, to engage them, and do it in a way that we can have way more creativity or connecting the dots, or it opens up access to way more creators who maybe had the talent, had the desire, but didn't have the ability. Now they get that, right? AI is this great leveler, and it's enablers others to create. So if you use it in the right way, we'll see creativity of the likes that the world has never ever seen before. But then you're going to have those people who are going to clutter up platforms. They're just going to be like, well, if I churn out like 50 of these like single keyword answers, I'm just going to game the algorithm and I'll get my rankings up. And it's just, what's that going to do at the end of the day, right? We want to appeal to people. Like, trying to optimize for algorithms it's a losing game. Like, the house always wins, right? So
Yeah.
why do that?
What advice would you give to someone wanting to get into content marketing today?
That's a really good question. I want to think about this, but I would say that the one thing that immediately comes to mind is that it's not this quick hack thing that it is, like, don't be pressured to feel like you just have to keep churning out tons of content because that's the only way to reach people. It's really not. Like, I would say that if you're just starting out in content, remember that what's even more important than putting out content is all of the work that you do in researching your audience and your business goals before you create the content. Because you could be talking, so let's say your company sells 2 different things. Like, one is maybe a loss leader, like it doesn't really make you any money, but it's popular. And one is where you make all your money. If your research was just like, oh, everybody's asking questions about this like loss leader product, then you'd create all of your content about that. Then you just get more people coming and buying that. It's like, no. what are my business goals? I need to sell, I need to grow, I need to find my business value. So I would say take the time beforehand to understand what's going to move the needle for your company, right? What's going to drive money. Two, research what your customer needs, wants, pain points, desires. Like, where are they going to spend time to learn about this or understand this? And if you do all of that, then your content creation ultimately is going to be so much easier and a lot more effective.
Mm-hmm. In the end, I would say is like putting the user or the buyer or the audience first.
Exactly. It's put them first. It's about them. It's not about you. Yeah, the one change I always tell every marketer think about is not that it's not what do I want to say? It's what do they want to hear or what do they need to hear? And just make that mental shift and you'll do a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Do you think like most companies are already, they are aware of the importance of having good content on their sites and they are willing to invest in that?
I think so. I think it's very encouraging to see the number of businesses now more and more realizing that how valuable content is for them, both to differentiate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, let's say SaaS, or it's so many, even direct to consumer products, there's not that much differentiation between the products or the offerings anymore, right? Or let's say a marketing agency, and marketing agency is an agency. There's thousands that offer SEO. What's going to set you apart? It's the value of the content. It's the impression that people will have in your mind, and content's the easiest way to do that. So whether it was Rand Fishkin, who grew Moz by really being so generous, SEO Moz at the time, by being so generous by sharing his knowledge and wisdom, right? And he built the brand through content and thought leadership. And you could argue, like, some business owners would be like, you're spending time writing a blog and putting on a conference that, Moscow, for a long time they've said in print that it's not there to make money. Like, they do this really as a way to give back to the community, and they break even if they're lucky. So anybody would look at that and be like, why the heck are you doing that then? But they knew the long-term game of the value of content, right? Mary Meeker's Internet Trends. I know she stopped doing it now, but every year she came out with them. Every year everybody in marketing, or most people in marketing who knew about it, would wait eagerly for it, because, like, what's there? Edelman's Trust Barometer report, for example, like, the minute it comes out, it gets so much press. It's there. It's helped build their name, right? By being the people who measure and talk about trust, it helps build their trust of their brand.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And there's also the fact that content is, you were mentioning that before, it's not really like a quick win. It's not like it's not a silver bullet. It's something that takes time, and you have to hit the right buttons and you have to do it well. And I think like we have come a long way, but there's still some education to do, especially with people who are a bit more old-fashioned, and they expect that, okay, if you put a piece of content out there, it's going to rank #1 in a week.
I know, right? If only it was that easy, then we'd all be doing it. Right. No, it's an investment. You are building your portfolio, right? If I'm going to buy a couple of stocks in the market tomorrow, I'm not going to be like, okay, now I'm retiring next week because I made enough money. I'm like, nope, I got to wait. I've got to wait for it to grow. Some things, maybe that stock will have a bad year. Maybe it will have a really good year. And also, don't give up on content too early. Sometimes people will release a piece of content and be like, oh, I didn't go viral, so this content is a failure. I'm like, one, why do you want to go viral? But two, it's not a failure. Like, try it again. Maybe it was a wrong platform. Maybe it was in a different format, and maybe put it in a video instead of a long text, or vice versa, right? Like, try it out a little.
Or maybe just it needs time, and then one day,
right,
it will start performing very well.
We build it, like I always try to say, like, sales is what will then close the demand that's been generated, but sales is not there to generate demand and so on. Like, that's where marketing can come in. Like, we each play a distinct role, and if marketers and sellers align better, so that way marketers understand sales struggles, like what are customers really objecting to, or what are their motivations, what are the questions they ask. If we understand that as marketers, we can create much more effective content that will help serve them later, right? As this cliche goes, like, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. So we have to keep planting these seeds so that sales can keep just like plucking it off the tree, and serving it. So that's where we play. Like, we each have a distinct role. And more businesses should understand that is that it's an investment, it's a long term. But if we sales and marketing align well, if they work together hand in hand, respect each other, like empower each other more, then success is the odds of success are so much higher.
Yeah, absolutely. And the top of your mind, could you like name like one or two brands that, in your opinion, are doing content really, really well?
Yes, gosh, so many. Like AARP they do really, really good content. EY, Ernst and Young, they have really, really good content. Monzo Bank in the UK, they have really fun, like, personality-led content. SEMrush, they post. There's so many people who are doing really like fresh, interesting, cool things with content that's very focused on meeting people's needs.
Mm-hmm. And I think I was mentioning at the beginning, you recently published the book. I think the book is maybe like 3 weeks old or
Yeah,
something like that.
3
Yeah.
weeks old. So yeah, that's my book baby, which I'm very proud. I gave birth 3 weeks ago to it.
Oh. So where does the idea for the book come from, and the motivation to write it?
Well, I got really sort of lucky in the sense where one day I woke up to this email that changed my life, where it was got an email from this lovely gentleman called Stephen Dunnell. So hi, Stephen, thank you again for changing my life. Where he said that, hey, Purna, like I've seen a lot of your talks, I've seen all of this. Would you want to write a book about content marketing aimed at practitioners? And you don't say no to things like that. So I was like, well, it's the whole year. I'd read Shonda Rhimes' book, the producer of Scandal and all
Yeah.
that. She was like the whole year of saying yes, where she said, say yes to things even when to say no. So I'm like, all right, yes, this is my answer. So I was very lucky that my publisher found me. And then my core reason, apart from this being like an offer you don't say no to, is look at the inflection point that we are in this industry, right? I worked at Microsoft before LinkedIn. Like I worked so much and I could see firsthand the impact that AI and how it was going to empower people and all. I mean, we saw already like this AI written articles is not new. Like Wall Street Journal, there's some outlets who have been using it for, for sporting scores or reporting. Really, the things that are very
Yes.
objective. Those have been done by AI for a while. So the writing was on the wall like years ago. Like if I look back and look at a 2018 talk I gave in Leeds on this search marketing conference that Stephen Kenwright had organized, I talked all about AI and how it was changing search and human experience. And like so much of that has come true today. So in that sense, we're at this inflection point. I have seen in my experience in SEO, working at large companies, working at startups, right? The first half of my career was startups. The other half has been all massive global enterprise organizations, so very different. We see that, but the issues that marketers across the board, whether they're a small company, large company, are not all over the map. They're very similar. We all ask the same questions, like how do I stand out? How do I differentiate? Now there's a competition is going up. AI is coming. So that was really my motivation to be, let me share all that I have learned along the way, from the mistakes that I've made, from the incredible mentors that I have been fortunate enough to find, and to tap into the brilliance of this kind, generous industry. I interviewed about 70 people, 70 marketers from all over the world, from different types of companies. Everyone was so generous in sharing their knowledge and perspective and case studies. And so that's really why I put this book together. It's gives you all of the strategy, but then I'm the type of person where I'm like, oh, that's super cool. I love that idea, but how? Like I need to visualize every single step. Like how do I make it a reality? And so that's what I did in this book, where I said, here's the core strategy, here's the really why behind it, and then here's the how. So I'll give you exactly step by step of how it's done, how I've done it, how I've taught others to do it, and learning from all the successes.
Mm-hmm. You were mentioning that most companies that do content, like they mostly face the same sort of like pain point. What is the most common pain point that anyone working in content marketing is facing?
It's really just trying to figure out, really like benchmarking themselves, that like my results aren't as good as I thought. Like I put in all of this effort, because this so much better, that creating content, regardless of the outcomes, just takes so much work and blood,
Yes.
sweat, and tears goes into it, whether it becomes, it has the desired business outcomes you were hoping for or it doesn't. the work doesn't change that much. So it's the question I get all the time is that, what do I need to do to stand out? What do I need to do to drive the results that I'm looking for? Like I keep, I spend $50,000 on this amazing new white paper or this research report, and like it's just not getting any traction in the market. And so it's those type of questions all the time. Like, how do I think about it? Where does content sit? What does best practice look like as well?
I guess
And
it's
that's
all.
the thing,
Yeah.
no, sorry.
No,
I
no.
get really excited about this. So also within companies, right, content can mean different things to different people. Like if you're an SEO, then content's just your means to get better ranking. If you're in PR, it's something different. If you're in the brand team, then content is
You're in
something different.
social is
So
a
then it's
different
like,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, so how do they think about it more holistically is also another question that I get, or that I encourage people to think about.
Yeah, because at the end, like all these teams, they shouldn't be working in silos because what one team does affects the other ones, and content is everything.
It is. So that's where content marketers within companies or within agencies can get themselves a bigger seat at the table, right? You can be seen as the value add that you are, because you can be that connective tissue that connects the dots between these other teams. And you could say that, hey, I was talking to product marketing and they are going to come up with this new guide on how, on the new feature that's coming out. And then you can be like, and PR is trying to figure it out. And you can be like, hey, content, I can come in the middle and I can create all of this stuff, pulling from building off of what product marketing is building, and then trying to look at what you want to do. I can help you and you can help me, and find that sort of cohesion. Like, let's build off each other's work.
Yeah, working like in synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're coming to Barbados SEO. We're very excited about
Yeah.
having you. Your talk is going to be called Progress Takes Work, Reinvent and Future-Proof Your Content Strategy. I'm reading from my notes here. Without spoiling it too much, because obviously we want people to come to the conference, what can people expect to learn from you at Barbados SEO?
Well, the biggest questions that I'm trying to answer are those questions that we get all the time. What are the biggest mistakes that I'm making as a content marketer, like with AI? Where do I fit in? How do I use it well? How do I really think about it? So it's always changing, and I've studied marketers from like 100, 200 years ago as well. I'm like, what are they doing that could still work today? And there's so much. And then I think, what could marketers be doing 100 years from now? And we never know the answer exactly, but at the rate of change, we can be like, well, one thing we know is going to change. So how do you keep up without burning yourself out? What are the tactical and strategic shifts in your mind that you need to create? So that's what I'll cover. I'll share, of course, a different way of thinking about it, but I'll also share very like actionable guidelines and templates that they can take back and work on immediately. So including, like, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I think people will really like from this talk is the framework that I have for connecting your content goals to your business goals. I feel like that is going to really resonate very well with people.
Yeah, because I think like that's one of the biggest challenges that people are facing in the industry. Like, how do you connect like the content that's being put out there with business goals, and how do you make sure that the content that is being created is actually targeting those and delivering on them?
Yes, and then how do you even report that to CFOs, right? The reach and impressions and all is not the language of the C-suite. They are all about, show me how it made an impact on our business. Show me the revenue that you were able to influence. Because we can never say that we did this post and it led that, but we can say that we helped influence it, and trying to benchmark what would have happened with or without that piece of content. And so that's something that I have really learned so much in depth and cracked that. And so that will be very valuable, I feel, for people to learn and take away and action. And anyone can action it, regardless of size of company.
And more on a personal note, what do you expect from Barbados SEO as a conference for yourself?
Well, knowing you and Martin and the whole team, I know it's going to be super well run. It's going to have the best speakers. And so and it's going to be in the most beautiful venue ever, right? So this is such a treat to nerd out about SEO and content marketing with some of the nicest, kindest, most brilliant minds on the planet in one of the most beautiful places on the planet. I mean, this is win-win-win. This was such an easy yes. I can't wait for it. And I would so encourage everyone to come and do this, especially because if you think stateside, there's fewer and fewer digital marketing conferences happening. And so this makes the even more reason to go and tell your boss that, boss, I need to go to Barbados because, this is the only way that I'm going to see the best speakers from all over the world come as close to the United States as possible.
I think one of the good things of Barbados SEO, it's a very intimate conference because of the nature of it. And some of the things that some of the other speakers were saying, or the people that have been repeating, is the fact that because it's more intimate, you get access to everybody all the time. And it's not like a huge audience, like people are more easy to access because the venue is smaller. The pool of people that can come is like smaller. So you get more like a premium access to everybody. And you learn more because you can ask direct questions to people.
That's so true. It's almost like it's like an exclusive, like a sort of mastermind, so to speak, where it's not. And I've always found that because I've been fortunate enough in my career to go and either be at or speak at conferences of all different shapes and sizes. And the smaller ones, somehow, when you can really get the nitty gritty, the details, you can spend much more time with the different speakers, build friendships, relationships, and even connect more with your peers because there's smaller people, they can talk. So you're making friends for life at events like that. So that's, of course, you'll get all the learnings, but I pretty much guarantee with intimate events like that, you'll also walk away with friends for life.
Now I'm going to, like, the last question that I wanted to ask is, what would you say is, you've spoken everywhere, you've just written a book, you've worked with bigger companies, for startups. What would you say is the biggest achievement in your career up until now?
Oh, that's a hard. I would say it is mentoring. So I've been lucky enough to lead some mentorings. I'm very actively in mentoring and giving back. And in fact, somebody who I feel like it is a way of giving back to my mentors who've taught me so much. Right? We're all standing on the shoulders of giants in some ways. So we can honor them best by paying it forward and doing that. So when I can see my mentees being like, oh my gosh, I took your learnings and I went and I did this, so I had this effect. I mean, nothing compares to that feeling. So I would say that that's the legacy. That's what I can change people's lives in a very teeny tiny way. But if I can make it a little better, that's my big thing that I'm proud of. That's what I would say I was proud of.
And that's beautiful because it's what you were saying at the beginning. It's in the nature of the industry of giving back and helping people and always being there for anyone, no matter how experienced or inexperienced they are.
It is 100%. And I'll quote, I think a great quote to end with that was from Will Reynolds, who's founded SEO Interactive, and he's been somebody I've learned from over the years. And he had told me once, long time ago, he said, Purna, if somebody sent the elevator down and raise you up, then it's up to you to make sure you send the elevator down. Like, I've never forgotten that. It's such a valuable lesson for all of us to do that.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Purna, for your time and for spending, half an hour like chatting with me about your book and content and everything else. But yeah, very much looking forward to seeing you at Barbados. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
So.